Okay, looks like we're recording. So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Rachel Bowman. I am the Chief Advancement Officer here at the YMCA of Coastal Georgia. My office is located in Savannah, but I surely have the wonderful privilege of working with all of our YMCA branches across Coastal Georgia. So thank you so much for making time today to carve out a little bit of time to learn more about our annual fundraising efforts and your very important roles as volunteers in that work. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and we're going to kind of walk through some of this stuff together. And like I said, if you think of questions at any time, I'm definitely going to make time for them at the end, but don't hesitate to type that in the chat should you need us. Let's see. All right, everybody seeing my slides? You're going to get a thumbs up if you can see my screen. Perfect. Thank you, Andy. I appreciate that. It's nice to have the feedback. So great. So today's focus is on our annual campaign, and to spend some time with you all, our branch volunteers, to learn a little bit more about the campaign and also spend some time talking about your role in the process and ways that we can work together to really make impact in our communities through this really important activity. So I think it's important to start with an impact look back on 2020 as we get ready for 2021 and prepare for our fundraising efforts. Many of you will recognize a lot of your names have been around the Y, certainly on the wild ride with us in 2020, and it can be very easy to lose sight and track of all the great impact that the Y had last year, considering how crazy busy and insane everything was. So if you're new to the Y or you're very familiar with your branch, you may not have a great look at what the association really looks like. So last year in 2020, we served nearly 63,000 members. So that includes everybody who makes up a membership unit. So a family, individuals, single adults, everybody all together, which is an awful lot of members, even considering the pandemic. We also had over 14,000 program participants engage in the Y. So that would be through things like swimming lessons, before and after school care, childcare, and other programs where people don't have to be a member to use the program. So it's a lot of people in our 7-county service area. So we have YMCAs with physical presence in 7 coastal Georgia counties: Bryan, Bullock, Chatham, Effingham, Glenn, Liberty, and McIntosh. I always tell people we kind of touch South Carolina and almost go to Florida and serve everybody in between. So it's a very large footprint in this coastal area and a huge association that you're a part of. Like I said, there are 10 facility locations that have some sort of physical presence with a fitness facility. We actually, in this number, I need to update, it's 55 before and after school care sites that happen in local elementary schools. So outside of Chatham County and Liberty County for part of the year, we have been offering before and after school care in the school sites. And unfortunately in Chatham, our kids are mostly still virtual and those sites haven't been open, but that's a huge piece of the Y programming in coastal Georgia. We have 3 full-day child learning centers that care for children from 6 weeks through pre-K. So many of you probably have children. Hopefully some of them have gone through our programs. I have 2 of my own who have, but that's another big piece of the Y's work in youth development. And those of you who maybe didn't know this, our Liberty County YMCA is actually an Armed Services Y affiliate. So they do a lot of really wonderful work with our military community and have some support from the Armed Services Y, which is specifically focused on serving our military families. So in the wild world of 2020, we started off the year on a great start, right? Things kind of came out the gate, very positive beginning. And then I think it was, I saw on the news last night, a year ago yesterday, we get word of the very first COVID case in the state of Georgia. And suddenly things are turned upside down. And our YMCAs closed their doors in the month of March. It was right after St. Patrick's Day. And we were really kind of thinking, like, what do we do from here? Where do we go from here? And you should all feel very proud to be part of an organization that was able to very quickly react to emerging community needs and fill in voids and gaps where services were desperately needed. So we offered critical personnel childcare to families of first responders and medical personnel when we closed immediately. And there were 90 families in our association that were served through that programming. And I can tell you from my seat, not just as a YMCA staff person, but as a parent, I could not imagine how scary it must have been for some of these families. We had infants, we had little babies as young as, I think, 8 weeks was the youngest one here at Habersham. I can't imagine taking an infant child and dropping them off in the early days of the pandemic when we were still learning so much about the virus, and what a wonderful place the Y provided for these families in this time when these people needed to work and there was really no daycares open, childcare centers open. So the Y was really able to fill that void up into school age, which was great. When schools went back this fall, many of them, Chatham and Effingham, or Chatham and Liberty, started virtual, and Chatham has remained. And we've been able to serve 319 families through virtual learning support programming through eCamp, which has been really critical for working families who are just trying to navigate this new normal and figure out what to do with childcare needs, but also still needing to work. The number that from the pandemic that really stands out to me, and I hope you can visualize this with me because it's so impactful. Our YMCA served as meal distribution sites in partnership with Second Harvest, Willett County Schools, and PAC in Savannah. And there were over 73,000 meals distributed out of our YMCAs in 2020. And this, to me, the visual of this is so critical because this was a time when many people were facing extreme isolation. For the first time ever, I mean, in my life, right? They're telling you, stay home, don't leave, stay with your family, don't go out if you can help it. But yet people still needed access to food. And we were able to hand 73,000 meals hand to hand from person to person. And that interaction is, to me, service in its best, right? It's really caring for people and still having that interaction that's very personal, in a very time of isolation and loneliness. So it's a huge impact, and obviously a lot of full bellies in a time when people could have been very hungry. We have a program here in Chatham County called Fresh Express, which is a mobile food distribution, fresh produce. And in 2020, and actually this number I just learned last week has actually gone up a little bit too, but almost 2,600 families served through fresh produce distribution. And this particular program focuses on areas of downtown Savannah that have been designated as food deserts, which means that people don't have easy access to healthy food options. They may have no grocery store that's in walkable distance, or transportation is an issue. So taking fresh fruit and vegetables down there really makes a huge impact in the nutritional value of these families' meals. And lots of blood drives across the association, which is awesome. I hope you have seen the blood mobile at your branch. And if you haven't, I know that there are many others being planned, but this was a great way the Y stepped in 2020, and over 200 pints of blood were donated, mostly by our members, to help community members in need. Many of you are involved with the YMCA's Giving Tree program, which happens at Christmas. And 2020, let's be fair, was really on my son. I was tucking him into bed the other night, and he said it he articulated it so well for a 6-year-old. And he said, "Mama, this year has been so mean." And I said, "Oh, Everett, you're so right, it has." And it brings me so much joy, and I hope it does you as well, to know that there were 800 children in our community who were able to enjoy the magic of Christmas, thanks to wonderful members, community partners who stepped forward and adopted children in need. And we were able to help over 800 children this year for Christmas through that. We still had a wild summer at the Y in 2020, even though it looked very different. I think our branches can tell you it was quiet compared to normal summers when we're busting at the seams with kids and there's a lot of laughter. But after months of isolation and schools closing in March, many kids not having much social interaction, we were able to safely offer summer day camp, which was a wonderful outlet for children. Screen-free fun, which I think we can all appreciate, even considering here we all are today on Zoom, and I'm sure we'd rather be in person. But really giving children that important social outlet and still the opportunity to have a great time, even in a very strange time. So they were still swimming and playing and making new friends. And so that was a wonderful opportunity this summer. In the fall, we launched a new online opportunity for Y members called Y Fit Live. So YMCA members are now able to participate in group exercise classes from the comfort of their home and the safety of their home. While we have seen a lot of members come back and use services and come back into the facility, we still have a lot of members who are wanting to engage with the Y but are not feeling safe to return yet. So this really is giving our membership base an opportunity to stay healthy in a way that makes them comfortable. If you are in a branch that has an active Child Watch program, this is a number I think you'll appreciate. Child Watch, as you know, is the program that we offer for parents to use while they're using the facility. Their children can be cared for in a safe and nurturing place in the facility as well. And this number floored me when I looked at it. This is not duplicated. This is individual children served, but across the association, almost 3,800 children served in Child Watch programs, which is enormous. And many of us are working parents or have grandchildren or are very aware of struggles that families are facing these days, right? We spend a lot of time together. There's not a lot of reprieve. And we're starting to hear things bubble up about what's being called the second pandemic, right? Which has to do with mental health and the real need for people to have the opportunity for some outlets for wellness and for mental health care and to do things that really help them kind of navigate the path in this incredibly difficult journey. And I think about Child Watch really providing that opportunity for moms, for dads, for grandparents who really just need a space so they can have a little bit of time for themselves. And so this is a really incredible number across our association in 2020. As I mentioned earlier, Liberty, McIntosh, Glenn, and Effingham counties are now back in school, and the kids are back in school 5 days a week. So before and after school care programs are being offered, another really wonderful outlet for children. And really, we have such a creative group of volunteers and staff here at the YMCA. And even in the midst of all of the new social distancing guidelines and all of the rules about cleaning and sanitation, we were still able to come up with really safe, fun, and socially distanced family events, which were really important and will remain important as we move forward and we heal as a community. In the bottom right-hand corner is a picture from the Habersham YMCA trunk or treat, which obviously looked very different this year. It was a drive-through. Normally they have thousands of people here in the parking lot, but still giving families that opportunity for fun. I loved this picture with the staff with the graduation hats. That was at our Golden Isles Y. It was one of the very first socially distanced events that happened. This was pre-K graduation. And so again, helping children and families celebrate milestones. So an awful lot to be proud of in 2020 and an awful lot to talk about for impact as we move into 2021. So I'm going to pause there for a quick second. And this is the audience participation portion of the program. So I hope we have some brave souls on the call. But I would love to see if any of you would be willing to unmute yourself and maybe just share just a few seconds about something about the why that makes you feel proud. So any volunteers?
I'd like to say what makes me feel proud. Hello,
Great.
I'm Carrie Vecchio.
Hi, Carrie.
And it really makes me feel proud the level of inclusion that we have at our Y. You see all age groups, you see people of all different shapes, sizes, colors, and everybody comes together and just there's such a family atmosphere where we are. And we all just are so happy to see each other, and there's a camaraderie there. And that's what makes the Y different.
I couldn't have said that better if I tried. I think that you just hit the nail on the head, and I love that. Carrie, will you tell us which branch you volunteer with, please?
I'm at the Statesboro.
Statesboro. Great. Wonderful. Yeah, y'all have a wonderful community, and I think you're exactly right. Everybody kind of, it's an equalizer, right? The YMCA is a great equalizer, and it does bring people together. Thank you for sharing that. Anybody else want to share anything about what makes them feel proud? Okay, because I have another question. So there will be another opportunity for sharing. So let's try this one. Carrie kind of hit the nail on the head a little bit of this, but Carmen, I'm going to call on you because I've used you as an example in my training pretty much every time I've given it. Carmen Young is the Habersham YMCA board chair, and she's on here with us today. And I will tell you, I went years watching Carmen engaging with members in the hallway. I used to call her the peanut lady because she always had peanuts and she was always sharing them. And she shared with me later that was her way of connecting and how she would sit and share a healthy snack with friends. So Carmen, will you share with us just your thought on what gives you a sense of belonging at the Y?
Well, even with COVID, I connect with the Y continuously. I mean, like, as I said right now, and I'm in the middle of working with Mallory and Crystal about ordering t-shirts, and it'll be a generic t-shirt for Y members for pickleball, and because we have new members starting all the time, and I'm even now setting up pickleball clinic. And so this is kind of how I engage with, and of course, being chairman of the board, I just brought in a new board member to meet with Jasmine yesterday. There's always something going on continuously.
I think the why keeps you young, Carmen. I really do. I just look at your birthday the other day and I said, that's no way, there's no way possible. But I think you just hit the nail on the head there too. Your belonging is really ownership too. You really take a lot of interest and pride in that. And so
Well,
I asked.
my last name is Young, and I'm always thinking about how I can bring in more funds to the Y. I mean, it's kind of like even clinics, you know, okay, this much goes to instructor and this much goes to the Y. And I mean, that's just part of my role.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, I asked these two questions because a huge part of our annual campaign has to do with relationships. And it can be a little bit challenging to think about, what do you talk about with someone when you get to know them and you're telling them about the why. And some of you have deep engagement with the why and have been around for many, many years. And some of you may be new to the why, or have a branch that's newer in the community. And Carrie, I think you and Carmen, obviously two different ends of the spectrum, right? Carmen she's at the Haversham Y, and it's a well-established Y in the community, and yours is newer, but yet you are both still having similar experiences and belonging, and are able to help build those relationships based off that sense of family and community that happens at the Y. So thank you both for sharing. So let's just talk for just a little bit about the annual campaign, what it is. For those of you who are not familiar with this, we do our annual campaign, obviously annually. It is a big part of our philanthropic picture here at the YMCA. We do have other fundraising, government grants, and federated fundraising, but the annual campaign is our biggest individual fundraiser that we do each year. So there are many components of it, and the one that we're getting ready to kick off now is our community portion of the campaign, which does exactly what Carmen described, gives us the chance to invite members, community partners, and other leaders to get involved and share in the impact that the Y is having, and hopefully give a gift back. So this campaign is about people. It is not about bricks and mortar. It's not about equipment. It's about people helping people. Carrie mentioned it. She hit the nail on the head. The Y is a place where everyone is welcome, regardless of race, religion, age, or financial standing. So it really is for all, and that the annual campaign helps us make sure that that happens. It is about supporting those in need. So annual campaign dollars go where membership fees don't. This really allows us to reach into the community, identify need. I think 2020 is a wonderful example of that. The Y was nimble enough to listen and respond to the greatest needs in our community and offer programs that keep kids safe, people healthy, and families strong. So it doesn't help with the building, but the membership fees help do things like keep the lights on, make sure the treadmills have electricity, and the annual campaign dollars really help us help people. And so it is an opportunity for our community to give back, and for you as volunteers to have the opportunity to share why you are involved with the Y, and to ask people to give back. And so it does. Our YMCA is one of the largest nonprofits in the Coastal Empire, and also one of the oldest. If you didn't know this interesting trivia fact, it was founded in 1855, and it's actually the 13th oldest YMCA in the country. So you are part of something that is so great and has such deep roots, and something that, for me, I think it's really interesting, and it's a lot to be proud of, that many years of continuous service to families in our communities. So some basics: we have about 1,700 donors that give to our annual fund every year. There are, like I mentioned, components. We have our family campaign, which is board and staff, which is in process right now. We have volunteers and staff who work on major gifts. They happen all throughout the year. That's more than just during the annual campaign. We're working on those. There's the community portion of the campaign, which lasts for about 8 to 10 weeks, depending on when it kicks off and when it wraps up. But that's our face-to-face opportunity in the community to engage our fellow members, partners, neighbors, people at church. And it is year round, right? So while we do have our community campaign, and it does have a start and stop, it is important to know that philanthropic support to the Y is important on every day of the year. So just because we may not be having a public push, it doesn't mean that we're not still in need of really important support to help sustain our programs and to also help offer financial assistance. So that's just an important point I wanted to make sure to make. And it's a pledge campaign. So donors do not have to pay immediately. And actually, hopefully, they'll give a little more when you tell them this too. But they can make their pledge of support now, and they have until December 31st of this calendar year to fulfill that gift to count for the 2021 year. So it does make it a little bit helpful, and hopefully pledging, you will encourage pledging. So the who and the how and the when. Who asks? Staff, board members, campaign volunteers. This is really an all hands on deck effort. Who gives? Obviously, we have a very generous group of staff, and they are working to give back. Our board members are also incredibly generous, and this year more than ever, and every year, it's very important that we strive for 100% board participation. I actually write a lot of the foundation proposals, and the very first question that's always asked is, does your board give at 100%? And it's really important to be able to answer yes, because that the staff and the board giving really is about, it's basically an endorsement, right? It's you saying, I truly believe in this mission and I stand behind the cause and want to help it be successful. So volunteers, other volunteers who are engaged in different program areas, members, many of you are active YMCA members, and many of you stayed with us while we were closed. It's really humbling when we look back at April, when we had no idea what to expect. And many Ys around the country were in the same boat as us. And when it was all said and done, we had over 6,000 membership units keep their membership active in the month of April and allow us to keep drafting to help support and sustain the work we were doing. And that equated to over $333,000, which that's huge. And membership giving in the Y is always a little challenging. You think it'd be easy because we've got members coming in the door, but it's almost nearly impossible to ask all of them. And in one fell swoop, we did, and look what happened. I mean, it was just incredibly humbling. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. But you as volunteers, if you sit in the board or if you're a campaign volunteer, this is a whole new list of prospects for us to engage, because if they stayed with us once, we hope that they'll give again, and we hope that it'll be greater than just their membership. But that was a huge victory and a huge success for really everyone to show. We know people love the Y, but they showed it in an entirely different way. So community businesses, of course, help. I see Andy, I know he's with Allstate, and Allstate is a huge supporter of the Y. Lots of community businesses get involved, and local foundations. So when does it happen? Like I mentioned, yes, we do have year-round giving, but a very heavy emphasis on the community campaign, which happens late March. That will be the official kickoff, although we've been quietly working on it in the background. And the victory celebration will be mid-May. So how does it happen? This is really traditional face-to-face asking, right? It's the right volunteer, the right person in front of the right person at the right time. Of course, there are many other ways to ask, and you should definitely feel free to engage however you are comfortable. Obviously, face-to-face is a little bit more successful. We get a lot of emails, we get a lot of letters, but this is a really successful way. We do have other activities that we do to support the annual campaign, like online appeals. Some of you may have seen some of those in the past. We have a very robust direct response program that has to do with mail, but it's really focused on the segment of our population 55 and above, and some lapsed donors that we're working to kind of reactivate through that method. It's been very successful for us and also very helpful with prospect identification. People can give online. They can also text to give. And the best part, and Terry Carter, our Metro campaign chair, reminded me yesterday to remind all of you, matching gifts. A lot of companies will match gifts that their employees give. And sometimes it can be more than just one-to-one. So that's another huge opportunity for folks to kind of increase their impact. So what's your role in all of this? Someone said, please go to this training and learn a little bit more about what you're going to do. And some of you are probably stoked and so excited to ask, get out there and start asking. And some of you may be more like, I don't know, I've never done this before. And wherever you fall on that spectrum, that's okay. Our role is to really expand year-round engagement with folks in our community who have the ability and would like to have the opportunity to impact the Y, and to build relationships, and to really remember that every interaction we have with folks makes an impression. So every time we're out representing the Y and advocating for the Y, we're really making an impression on the future donors and supporters of the organization. So this is our case for support, which means this is what we're using to tell folks why it's important that they give. These are materials that you, of course, will have when we kick off the campaign, but they're also all available digitally on our website. And so our slogan at the Y for giving is for a better us, which means us is right, our community, it's us collectively, the things we do together to strengthen the work that we need and to help make sure that no one goes without. So things like You Nurture Kids, right? It helps support summer day camp, youth sports, childcare. These are critical youth development programs. And as our community heals from this pandemic, programs for youth are going to be even more important to give them these positive opportunities and places to kind of get involved and find a new normal. A lot of kids haven't seen friends in a really long time and they're lonely. And so this is a great place for that. You save lives. When people learn to swim at the Y and they're safer on water, that's a home run hit for everyone. We live in a coastal community. There is water everywhere. And we all know that it doesn't take an ocean to drown. You can drown very easily. And so the Y is able to teach more kids to swim every summer, thanks to the support of donors to our campaign. We've got some really great wellness programs. Live Strong at the YMCA for cancer survivors. Our Habersham Y has a spinal cord injury program for people that are living with spinal cord injuries and helping them to regain strength. So lots of great stuff there. You keep seniors young, right, Carmen? Young. She just said it.
Yes.
Name is young. But giving active older adults the opportunity for longevity and healthy aging. And again, people are isolated. When we were closed during the pandemic, a lot of our branches, and they continue to do it, did a lot of outreach work, calling and reaching out to our senior members just to say, hey, how are you? Do you need anything? Are you hungry? Is there anything we can help you with? Because the Y really is a place that brings people together, and it's makes a huge impact on senior isolation. And we've got wonderful senior programming across our association, lots of very active older adults, and they're my favorite. Don't tell anybody. You help others. Every dollar donated to the Y stays in your community to help your community. So if you are in Hinesville, the money you raise there stays there. Statesboro, same thing. This money is not being distributed out. It is in your community to help your neighbors with the greatest needs, and supporting families with financial assistance. So the Y never turns anyone away due to the inability to pay. And our financial assistance is available for every program and all of our memberships. So we never want anybody not to have access. And the annual campaign is a key component of that. So when you're thinking about the annual campaign and your involvement, you probably already have an idea of maybe some folks you could reach out to and talk to about the campaign. So what makes a good prospect? These are pretty simple, and a lot of you will know all these, but obviously if there's somebody you know that already has involvement with the Y, that's a great place to start. Maybe it's someone who just has a passion for helping a certain segment of our community or really helping to make the world a better place. They may have a great community concern and they're trying to solve a problem. Our local branches are such a great place for problems to be solved, because you as community leaders know better than anyone what the community needs and how the Y can step into that space and really make an impact. So that's a great way to kind of think about people who may want to be involved. They may already have a connection. Maybe they were a previous member, or you know them because your son or daughter played youth sports with them. Maybe it's time to reconnect or the opportunity to reconnect. And many of you have been annual campaign volunteers for several years or many years in some cases. So you may already have prospects that have a strong giving history. And obviously those are wonderful folks for us to continue to invite back to make impact. So when you're thinking about who you may be able to engage, think about your engagement with the Y. Where do you see folks? Maybe you see them on facility tours if you're in the branch. Maybe it's on the wellness floor if you're an active and avid user. And if you're not, maybe you stop in for meetings or you're there. So there's lots of times when you're in the Y, in a group exercise class. Maybe if you're involved in Rotary, which I know many of you are, other service clubs, that's a wonderful place to think about prospects in a current program. We have vendors of our YMCA that give back, and we don't always have the best connection to all of them. So a conversation with your branch director about maybe who are some key vendors that you're using locally, see if there's a connection there as well. And maybe it could be a friend, a colleague, or a relative. So how can people give? Lots of ways they can give. Like I mentioned, pledging is encouraged. They can make pledge arrangements for monthly, quarterly, or one-time payment. We have the ability to do online giving, and we are adding an online pledge form. So people will be able to go online and make a pledge and not enter any payment information so that they can pay later in the year, which will help in a time when we've got, obviously we have a large association and there's a lot of paper moving around and not everybody is being seen in person. So this just makes a virtual an ask very easy. They can do credit card. We take Visa, Visa, MasterCard, American Express are all accepted through our website. So that is also a possibility. They can add a monthly draft or a credit card draft if they want to set it up that way. So it just reoccurs every month. We also have a lot of members who will add on an additional amount to their membership. And actually it's not new, really, it's not a new concept. This was around well before we were ever involved in the YMCA, but we have a lot of folks who, instead of canceling their membership, have kept their membership drafts active and have become sustaining members. So they're giving a gift in lieu of their membership, but they're still staying involved. So that's another easy way for folks to do that. Of course, we do have some alternative giving vehicles that people may use. Stock gifts sometimes happen, and should you have somebody who wants to give that way, my information is on their website, but you just connect them with me and I can certainly help through that. And donor advised funds, they're not mentioned on here, but that is a new giving vehicle that has really gained some traction. It's not a new vehicle to the giving world by any means, but it's being used a whole lot more lately. So if anybody that you're talking to needs help with any sort of additional gift vehicle, you can always connect them with me. The most important thing is that no matter what way they're giving, is that you fill out a pledge form so we can make sure that we're adequately tracking it and thanking them for their gift. So like I mentioned, you're going to get some printed materials, but we also have a wonderful menu of resources for you. And these are all available in our online campaigner zone. And I included the link to that already in the chat, but it's also here in the slide deck. And you can access it through our website. It's on the right-hand side underneath the giving title. You can pull it down. So all these materials are there. Also, when the community campaign kicks off, you'll be receiving a weekly email with an update that has information about things that are happening in the week, progress for the branches, tips and tools, messages from other volunteers, things to get you motivated. So that will be heading your way as well. As I said, all of our materials are digital, so you don't have to worry about trying to scan something in and sending it. You can easily attach it to an email or forward something on to someone. We have videos, again, the collateral materials, there's impact statements for each of your branches, as well as all of our program areas, the text to give option, online giving. Some of you are familiar with our branch banner program, which is a recognition program that we use with a lot of community businesses, and folks can get their picture on a banner, and the banner says, Hinesville is so much stronger thanks to you, and has an image of the community partner, and is really a great way to recognize folks for giving. And those are all available on our website as well. And then obviously we have gift recognition that we'll do throughout the year. So I did want to just, because this has been a hot topic, is the peer-to-peer fundraising, because everybody likes to set up this social page. So there is a link. Actually, let me go back just one slide. There is a link over here on the right-hand side. You can see the image of our website. It says create your personal fundraising page. Click here. So it's very simple to do once you navigate to that. But all you have to do is click that page. It's going to take you to our online giving portal, which then will help you set up your page. So I went ahead and set one up for my son, and I'll show you kind of what this looks like. But you just fill out your first name, your last name, your phone number, and your branch. And then it'll say, hey, great, you're a fundraiser now. Then you get the opportunity to personalize your page. This is where you can add your message, why you give, inviting people to join you. Maybe you want to set a personal goal for yourself to share out. I will say there's a volunteer in Liberty County, Stephanie Fox, who ran with this last year, and she must have gotten 30 new gifts that came through online. So if online and digital is your space, this is your tool, and this is a great way to engage. So I can see Hillary's, there's a question in the chat that's saying, will this PowerPoint be available to us? Yes, we will be sharing this out. Thank you for that. And then you can join your team. So you will select your branch, and that way you're connected with your branch goal. So once you do that, you will then see your final page. And this is, I made one for my son, so you can see. So that you can add your photograph, and then you can put a little bit about yourself. So he said, I'm fundraising for the YMCA of Coastal Georgia because I want to make sure that kids like me have the chance to learn to surf. I've been going to surf camp for the past 3 summers with my best buddy, Rafa, and it's a blast. Rafa has been my friend since we were babies. In the infant room at the Y is helping us learn and grow, and also learn about helping others. Can I count on you to help support a kid like me? Who could say no to that, right? So maybe I'll be sharing ACE's page out instead of mine. But again, just a quick little blurb, and we will provide some canned language there for you if you don't quite know what to write. Don't worry, but this just gives you a chance to do that. And you'll see there where I have the blue arrow at the bottom where it says share. This will then take you to this next little image, which then will give you your own text number. So you can tell your friends, you can text Better Us 94 to 71777. That's ACE's personal. Each of you will get assigned your own, and it will be connected to you as a campaigner. And then you also get a link. So if you wanted to include it in an email or a social share, it's very simple. So again, I'm going to send this all out, and there are some additional instructions, but if anyone needs help setting up their page, we are more than happy to help people get involved with that as well. So let's just kind of sum up everything, and then I'm going to open the floor to questions. But together we can build a better us. Our goals are all going to be revealed, and I would be remiss to remind you all that the actual virtual kickoff for this campaign is March the 28th at noon, and Crystal is going to be preparing an invitation that will be emailed out, so you all can make sure that your volunteers are all invited from your branches and any other community leaders that you may want to involve. So we hope that you all will make a meaningful personal gift before you ask others. That tends to be always the best place to start. It's much easier to ask when you can say that you've given yourself.
Hey, Rachel.
Yes.
Hey, I believe it's March 30th. Isn't that correct?
You know what? Thank you. It's right. You're right. It's the 30th. As soon as I said it, I felt like that's not the right date. March 30th. Thank you, Mark. March 30th. Okay. Make sure that all gets confirmed back. Thank you. Know the why and your prospects. So be informed about the why's programs. You don't have to know about all of them, but if you choose one thing that makes your heart sing and you can speak about that in a really clear way, you'll be floored with how easy this is. You're just having a conversation. The most important thing I hope you remember from today is that your role as a volunteer in this effort is to listen, to advocate for the why, and to ask when it feels appropriate and comfortable, right? So if you get the opportunity and you really can go for it, I encourage you to do it. And I would just remind you to be bold. People give $100 because we ask for $100. It's when we really kind of put it out there and stretch and really talk about the need. You'd be really surprised how people come along. I do want to make a note here. Obviously, we have a lot of branches and there's a lot of overlap in some of our communities. So if you have some prospects in mind that you think, gosh, I have a great relationship with this person and I'd really like to talk with them, go ahead and send an email to your branch director, or you can also email me. My contact information is here. And we'll just make sure that nobody else is already working on that prospect for something else, or there's not something greater going on, because we certainly don't want to ask the same person 15 times. I'll say Gulfstream is a great example of this. Every year in the campaign, someone's like, oh, well, we can ask Gulfstream. Yes, we can. And they are very generous to our why, but they like to be asked in a specific way, and we go to it with an association approach. So it's just really important that we are careful with that. So if you go and you buy a new car and you've been talking about the why and you're like, gosh, this would be a great prospect, don't lose the chance to have the conversation and connect them back. This is where your peer-to-peer page is super helpful. And you can say, I can give you this number, you can text it, it'll take you right to it, sharing any of the information that you have. But if you've got some planned ahead, go ahead and ask so that we can keep that real consistent. And sharing your story. Giving is so much a matter of education. A lot of times people just don't know what the why does, or they didn't know the why was doing work in these different spaces. So sharing the value, being enthusiastic. You all would not be involved with the why as volunteers if you didn't care. So you've already checked the first box. So you're off to a great start. And then if you can, set up your eCampaigner page. So in closing, I just want to share a quick story with you, and then I'll open up the floor to questions. I picked up this book a few years back. It's called It's a Choice, and it's actually written by a YMCA CEO who works in New Jersey, and it's basically the book that probably every Y staff could write, and it's just experience with different members and different programs and different things that have happened to them while working at the Y. But he shares a story in here that really hit home with me about the importance of relationships and our ability as a team to make great impact. And he's sharing a story about a member whose name is Bob. And he shares that one day he was just working out on the wellness floor, and he happened to see this gentleman, and he said, hey, I'm Jim. And Bob introduced himself. And over the years, he got to know Bob, and he learned that Bob had been a member at lots of YMCAs across the country, and he'd always really been involved with the Y, that as a kid, he had been in a foster home, and the Y really had a great impact with him growing up, and he just always wanted to make sure he was paying it forward. So one year he handed Jim a check, and he said, here's a check. If there's a kid who wants to come to the Y and they can't afford it, please pay please use it to support that child. No strings attached, right? It was a gift. And so, you know, the relationship continued to grow. Bob continued to get more involved with the Y. One day they went to breakfast. Bob had learned a little bit about the military initiatives at the Y. He hands Jim another check and he says, hey, if there's a military family that needs a membership, they need some support, this is for them. No strings attached, just pay it forward. So it's just a reminder that sometimes a simple hello can go a long way, because that story wraps up that Bob passed away, and to honor his memory, his wife had a bench installed at the front of the Y, right, the welcome space, and it with a message, a fable that said, no act of kindness, no matter how small, is ever wasted. It's the perfect message in the perfect location. So again, you all have such a wonderful opportunity now to make great impact. This is to me, the opportunity to really fuel community efforts and really make our Y just have the ability to do great work and remain nimble. So I am so thankful for all of you, for all you do, and for the time you took today. And I will share these slides out. I'm also going to answer any questions that you might have at this point. So I'll stop talking. Y'all start talking, and I'm happy to answer anything you might have.
Rachel, did you say that we have 62,918 members?
That was, yes. That's when I pulled that report. And so, you know, that number changes every day, but that's actual people. I don't have the current unit count right now, but last I checked, it was hovering a little over 14,000 units. So that could be households.
Okay. I need to set up a peer-to-peer fundraising, because last year I got about 20 people to donate. And these are all pickleball people, because I feel comfortable with them, and, you know, they'll donate. And a couple of members, I know they didn't have the money, but they wanted to donate. So one member said he would donate $3. I said, and I'll put in 3. So you donated a total of $6. I mean, and another member said she'll donate 5. I said, okay, I'll put in 5. And so you donated 10. I mean, I think it's just kind of like makes people feel good that they're contributing to the Y. And I mean, you know, $3 is not going to hurt me, and another $5 is not going to hurt me. So their total was, you know, twice the amount. And I think that that's kind of, you know, you see people doing that.
Yeah, so you were serving as their match, basically. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
And you're right. The online, the peer-to-peer will be a great way to capture that, because then they can just take care of it right away. And actually, it has the capability for Apple Pay, which is new. So you can even just use your watch like a magic band to give to the Y as well. So I can help you with that, Carmen. I'm happy to sit with you one-on-one and help you get that page set up next time you're in the office or you're around the branch.
Okay, but I also want to make sure that they get a thank you note too.
Yes.
And I can do that if I have Y.
You have
Stationery.
Great. And we will have those available at all of your branches, thank you cards, so you can pick them up. When people do give online, they immediately get a thank you and a tax receipt. So that also goes through, but the personal one-on-one handwritten note is gold, right? Especially today. So that's great. And we will have those available. So you can, any of you who are interested and like to do that, you can also, of course, send something on your personal stationery, but the thank you goes a long way. Thank you for reminding me of that, Carmen.
Welcome.
Hillary, is there a question, another question from the chat?
This is actually just a comment too. One of the cool things about your personal fundraising page is that you can see what your total is too and who's donated. So then you can reach out individually and say, oh my gosh, thank you, Susie, for doing that. So I think that was really cool for me to be able to see who I was connecting that with just on my personal page, just from a social share. So that's good tracking for you as well.
Great point. Any other questions? Okay. Well, listen, thank you all so much for everything you do for the Y. And I'm so thrilled to have had the opportunity to spend this time with you this afternoon. And if you do think of anything, please don't hesitate to reach out. I've also included my cell phone there, and I'm always happy to entertain a text or a call. So if there's anything we can do to help you be successful, don't hesitate. And like I said too, we'll share out the slides, and this was recorded, and so it will be posted on our YouTube channel later today if you want to go back and refresh. And we are hosting another session next Thursday morning at 8 a.m. So if you learned something today and you see a fellow board member wasn't on, if you want to encourage them to attend, of course, we're all better together, and we will build a better us when we can work together strongly on that. So thank you so much for your time, and I hope you all have a great rest of the day.
Thank you, Rachel.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.